Hello everyone and welcome to Talk of the Town on ETC3 TV. I'm kristy Lindstrom. Talk of the Town is a program about our movers and shakers, people who are making a difference in our community, in our state, and throughout our country and our world. And I am very excited to welcome you to this program. Today is January 30th, 2020. Hard to believe. Last week I was with you telling you the story of the Blue Ridge Community Theater's production of Alice in Wonderland. And today our topic is quite different. Today's topic is trauma and post-traumatic stress disorder, and I have two incredible women who are here to share their story. But I want to thank you for watching. This program airs to Fannin, Gilmer, and Pickens counties in Georgia, and also to Polk County in Southeast Tennessee. Also, I have the privilege of sharing this story via Facebook Live on my personal Facebook page, and also coming up in the next few weeks, we will have the program airing on my YouTube channel, which is kristy Lindstrom Communications. So if you don't catch it live today or one of the many rebroadcasts that we will do here at ETC, you will be able to catch it on my YouTube channel, again, kristy Lindstrom Communications. And I welcome everyone who's watching this program today because it's going to help someone. I know it is because it has certainly helped me. Welcome to my two guests today, two of the most precious people that I've had the privilege to know. And I'm only meeting you and talking to you personally today, Elaine Dilbeck, and also Sallie Sompayrac. Ladies, welcome to the show today.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Well, the reason that I have come to know you is because you were both featured in the TLC program, Taken at Birth. Mm. And because that is a story that impacts the community where I was raised, I was particularly drawn to that program. And so I sent both of you a friend request on Facebook, and you accepted my friend request. And so I was just kind of watching your life from afar. And then, Elaine, when you posted on your Facebook page that you were teaching a class on trauma and PTSD, I knew that's something that I wanted to go to because for me, I have a lot of questions about life and about things, and I wanted to know, how could someone who has had a lot of difficult things to happen in life, how could you turn that around and want to teach and help others? That's remarkable strength. So that's where I come from for this program, and that's why I embrace you two and love you two. And thank you for starting our show. As I mentioned, we started our show today with prayer because really prayer transcends all the negative, and it's really brought you two together, right, Elaine?
Yes, it has. Most people have heard this story, but through this documentary, when we first started filming, I noticed Sallie was somebody that I didn't know while we were filming. And I asked somebody who she was and found out that she is Dr. Hicks's granddaughter. And so I told her I didn't know what to do with her or what to say to her. You know, I didn't know what, this is the granddaughter of the doctor that this story is centered around. Later on, the original producers of the documentary, the husband, he pushed me and encouraged me. He said, "You need to call Sallie, you need to call her, and you need to talk to her." What am I supposed to say to her? I didn't have a clue. I don't want to talk to her. He said, "I think that you'll be pleasantly surprised. She supports you." Me? She knows what I do. He said, "Yes. And you need to hear her story."
And let's back up just a little bit for those who may not have seen this program, and I didn't really say that in my introduction, but this program was about a doctor, your grandfather,
Correct.
Who was a physician in our community, who delivered babies, who cared for families, and there are reports that about 200 or maybe more, I'm not sure, babies were delivered through the office that were then given up for adoption. Is that correct?
Correct. And I believe at first people went to him just to get rid of unwanted pregnancies. He was known for abortion. Part of what a lot of people don't know is I'm adopted, and my father is his son. And I believe when my parents started trying to adopt, that my grandfather thought, "Oh, I'll talk some of these women into having their baby, and nobody will ever know they had a baby."
And Elaine, how did this story evolve in your own life? What was happening in your life, and how did this story come to be?
My dad, which is one of the featured stories, I'm Steve Dilbeck's daughter. Has been searching for his birth family since before I was born. And there was an event that brought us together, and through that event, there was a possibility for us to find his birth family. He was more in a search for his mother, his birth mother, than he was his father. And he also has a twin, we think, that's still out there somewhere. And so over a process of time, I was approached by a production company and by one of the other adoptees about there was a possibility of a documentary in the works. And do I think that I would and my dad be a part of that documentary? And after some going back and forth and talking about it, we decided to be a part of that.
Because your dad was trying to do his own search
Yes.
at that time?
Well, actually, I think basically the search started in '97 when...
There'd been several failed attempts at DNA, but as DNA has progressed, finally, people were beginning to get answers.
Okay.
Right. So in '97, Jane Blasio is the one that actually brought the story to the forefront, but she had been searching long before that.
And of course, the training that I went to, Jane was also there.
Yes.
So the three of you were able to share your story with all of us, which was so touching that through tragedy or difficult times, you formed this incredible relationship. And we'll talk about that, but continue your story.
And so through that, as we started getting into the filming and doing what we were doing, and I'll go back, that, you know, they really encouraged me to reach out to Sallie to talk to her, that she had a story to tell me. So finally we reached out to one another in our on Facebook. And went back and forth in a conversation for, you know, a few minutes, and she asked me, she said, would you like to exchange numbers? So we did that, and she called me, and I didn't know what to say to her. I really didn't, but she gave me her story and told me what had happened, and some of the techniques that I use in trauma therapy, she had actually used one of those therapies to get through what she had been through. And so I was putting together a trauma conference, and I did that in Blue Ridge in September of last year, a little trauma summit. Sallie and I did an interview to promote that. She attended that with me, and it just started from there. And she said, whatever it takes for me to help you to get this word out in what you do and how you treat people, I want to do everything I can. And she stuck to her word, and she's done that. That's what brought us together. So after the documentary aired, and we got to permission to actually start talking about it.
Yeah.
Just to give you a little something to laugh at, Sallie and I still get it every once in a while when people see us together, is they don't know whether to support me or to support Sallie, and they look very confused, and it's like, this is not a publicity stunt. We really do care about each other. We really are friends.
You love each other.
We love each other.
We really
we're
do.
Good friends.
We're really good. And through all this, and that documentary helped to bring that about through this, because we've combined our stories, and our motto is, given who my dad is and the struggle that he went through, given who Sallie is on that other side of the fence, that if God can heal this and heal her and my dad's relationship, then he can do anything. Because Sallie's not only a trauma survivor, I am too. So I don't do just the work that I do because that I went through education to do it. I've lived it. And I have struggled through traumas and struggled through post-traumatic stress most of my life. And actually this documentary and the friendships that I developed with Jane and with Sallie has helped my own trauma It's actually helped a lot of my own trauma to heal. So.
Well, I appreciate the story. As I mentioned, I was drawn to the story on television watching it because the story of the Hicks Babies, we will just call it, because it's just kind of what people refer to it as, that's a story that I really have heard throughout much of my own life. And I know there are a lot of families who truly do sing the praises of Dr. Hicks for being their family doctor and bringing their children into the world. And what a difficult discussion it is, or for even in a community. I can see how you two have healed, but I'm sure there are a lot that haven't healed, that haven't worked through it, that are maybe just having their own questions about their own lives and they don't have answers. And it's hard to believe, but we're already up against a break. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I am going to continue talking to these two wonderful ladies about their story. And more importantly is the work that you're doing in our very own community. Your hearts have healed, you've developed this bond, and now you're teaching others how to deal with their own trauma through your own story, and that's such strength. When we come back on ETC3, we'll continue, but you're watching Talk of the Town. Stay with us.
Nope.
Coming back on our three shot. I'm having so much fun with these ladies. Welcome to Talk of the Town. I am here with Elaine and with Sallie. They are sharing their story. They were both featured on the TLC documentary Taken at Birth. Sallie has mentioned that her grandfather was Dr. Hicks. He's passed away. He was a doctor, and he brought lots of lives into this world. The reports have been that many of those babies were adopted out to families. Not a lot of records or no records from some of those. And there are children searching for their families, as they have a right to do if that's what they've decided in their own family and in their own life, if that's what they'd like to do. And Elaine's father was one of those babies. And through the story I watched on television, you alluded to it, that your father believes that he has a twin, and he did not have a chance to meet his birth mother. Is that right?
That's correct. She passed away in 1980.
And were they living close to one another, or?
At one point, they were actually in the same community together.
In the same community. And that's what breaks my heart about these kinds of stories. And there are so many, I'm sure, that could be told. We saw a lot of those stories in the program, but I'm sure there are others. Maybe it's too painful for others to tell. So do you feel like in this documentary, what has happened since it aired? Because that was what, October?
Correct.
What has happened since then? Have people reached out to you? Have there been leads to come in to connect people? What's happened since then?
Oh my goodness.
Facebook, I had probably over 400 Facebook requests that I've responded to. I kind of am careful. I make sure I know somebody that they know.
Somebody in the connection.
Yeah, somebody in the connection. But I have gotten wonderful feedback from people, and I don't think I was prepared at all to get the love and the support, especially in the surrounding communities around here. But people have just told me, how wonderful it was, what I did for the adoptees and for myself to go and exhume my father's body.
You gave closure on so many points, right?
Right, and to support them and to exhume his body, to get the DNA, so that people that had wondered whether or not they were related to my grandfather could finally find out. And also for myself, because all these years I've always been told that I look so much like my dad. And then the producers put a picture of me in my 50s and my dad in my 50s. And my dad had been dead since 1978. So to see me side by side with him was almost unbelievable how much I looked like him. So I needed to do that test, DNA, and answer that question for myself once and for all. Was he really my biological dad or not?
And Elaine, for you and for your dad, what has happened since that program? What has the process of healing been like for him? Or does he continue to struggle? Does he continue to look? Where are you in that journey?
In some ways, he's very relieved because he knows who his father is. He's met He had 7 sisters, and there's only 2 that remains. And he has a very close relationship with both of them. One is in the nursing home and in the beginning stages of dementia, but she knows who he is now when he walks in, and a very good, close, loving relationship with his youngest sister. And so he actually has family he's never had before.
And he struggled, from what I watched in the documentary, he struggled with a place of belonging and being in his life, right?
Right. He had a good adoptive father, and that's where his mind is satisfied, that he just didn't feel this relentless pursuit to find out who his biological father was, because he had a good adoptive father. It was on the mother's side that the issues arose, and so much complications, and a lot of what he went through was from her. And so when the documentary aired, and I realized because of his last name, people knew who his adoptive father was, and I got permission to post on Facebook that it was not the Dilbeck that was the issue, because my grandfather, and he will always be my grandfather, no matter who we find, if we do find the biological one, that he had such a good reputation. I wanted to maintain that reputation for him because he was a very good man. But there's so much that's come out of this documentary. A lot of healing, healing for my dad in my relationship, healing with Sallie and my dad, healing with, in the community. It opened a door for Sallie and I to work together to do what we're both so passionate about, and that is bringing information to people that have experienced trauma, and give them the information and the education that they need. I was living in Warner Robins and had been down there for close to 6.5 years, Warner Robins, Macon area, and
now you're in our community.
I'm back home now. I come back home, and it happened
fast.
very fast. I mean,
it was like she said, God, I believe God's leading me to come back up here. Well, the next thing I know, she's back up here.
Well, and I remember seeing on Facebook that you were looking for a house, and I'm like, who do I know who has a house? And I was like, I really don't know why, but I felt, and started messaging people, asking and posting names, and think Elaine's got to have a house up here. It's just the draw. And so what happens next? And I want to do a switch in just a moment to talk about what you're doing now to educate others. But for your dad's journey, and for others who may be watching and who they really haven't taken those steps to close the loop or do the research, or maybe there are people that will watch this program who have information. Where do we go from here in this story? Where does your dad go? Where do victims go?
Well, the only thing I can tell you about my dad's process, there's some things that we've been given permission that we can be open with. There's some things that's still taking place that I can't disclose. The only thing that I can tell you right now is that we are searching for his twin. We are looking for his biological father and other possible brothers and sisters that could be on that side of the family. So I know that's taking place right now.
So will there be like a second series?
We don't know.
Okay.
We don't know.
Okay.
And I'll say one thing. One of my quotes from the show is we're only as sick as the secrets we keep. And I do know that once the secret is exposed, the elephant's gone. And that was a healing process for me. I hope it would be healing processes for others. And that goes from not just the show, but for the secrets trauma people keep. They're stuffing down their truth because they feel like they have no safe place to talk to anybody about it.
Well, and I feel like with the two of you, you've been so open to share your story and create dialogue that if there is someone in the community that has information about this, maybe they can look past, you know, I'm not sure what the emotions might be, and you may be able to better speak to that, but maybe they feel ashamed, or maybe they are angry or upset, or whatever version of that healing that they could be in, or maybe they haven't even started the process. There's a lot of forgiveness that others would have for them, I believe, if they would just
Come forward.
and share. And if there was someone who wanted to do that, how would they do that? How would they share with you?
What people have done with us since it started is they'll either send one or both of us a private message on Facebook.
Okay.
And then what Sallie and I do, we'll reach out to each other and say, I've had this person to reach out to me, you know, and share information and offer support together. Or if they feel more comfortable with one or the other, we're both okay with that. If you know, they feel like that they can relate to Sallie better, I want them to talk to her. And if it's vice versa, then she'll say, Elaine, I think you really need to talk to them, and she'll encourage them to reach out to me. But if you don't want to put yourself out there, please know and understand that Sallie and I do not share information with outside people. So if you reach out to us, we will talk to one another. But this is not something like, oh, did you hear so-and-so said that, or did you know so-and-so did that? We know how important it is for people, you know, to feel safe, and we want to make sure they maintain that. So reach out to one of us or both of us, and we'll give you the right direction of where you need to go. If it's DNA that you need, reach out to Jane. Send her a message on Facebook.
Or anybody can message me if you want to be connected with the two of you, because we're sharing this through people that I know. I can certainly send on a name, and I would commit confidentiality just to pass the message along to help heal and change lives.
Yes, and if it is the DNA, it's Jane that we've got to get the DNA to.
And that's Jane Blasio?
Yes.
Right. So could you maybe just, I'm sure the names are on the bottom of the screen, but say and spell, if someone's looking for you on Facebook, if that's the method they need to reach you.
Okay, you can look under my private Facebook page, and it's ELAINE, and it's Dilbeck, DILBECK. Send me a friend request. Or send me a message. So that's one way that you can reach me. Another way, we were going to get into this, but I also work at Georgia Mountain Health.
So excited that you're here working with them.
As a therapist working at Georgia Mountain Health. And if you feel like that you want to reach out for counseling, or if you just want to make contact with me, you can reach me there. And it's 706-946-4647. And
I am Sallie, Sallie, middle initial C, Sompayrac, Sompayrac, on Facebook, and you can message me or, you know, friend me on there, and I will do whatever I can to help you get what you need.
And how did the two of you decide, and Elaine, we're going to go to another break in about a minute. I told you this was going to go by fast. I was saying to Sallie when you were, I guess, gone to the restroom before we started the show, you know, when I think about life, I think, did our career choose us? Did we choose our career? And look at you with all of the things that you have encountered in your life to have chosen psychology and trauma. How, I guess, were these things paralleling in your life, or do you look and say that's a God thing, that look at this career I've chosen, and now look at the audience I have to help?
I did not want to do this. I did not want to go into this line of work. I did not. God chose it. And I opened myself up to that, and I said, what I wanted didn't work out, so God, you have to choose. This is what He chose for me. I had no clue that it was going to come to the point to where it has come to, and I would have this audience, and that came about through this documentary. This is the most recognition, and again, this is not about me. This is about God. This is about healing. This is about healed relationships. This is It includes all of that.
But if there's anybody that you want to talk to about issues like this, who better to talk to than someone who has been through this, like you have?
I have. And
You're
that's
a
what-
blueprint for, I mean, for lack of a better, but right, you're the perfect person.
Well, and that's what I tell clients as they start talking to me. I'm not just educated
Right.
in this, and to show that I'm an expert in this field. I've been there, done that, bought the T-shirt. So there's not a thought that you can think or a word that you can say that I haven't thought or said myself.
Right.
So everything that, we may not go through the same traumas, but we have the same feelings and emotions.
Right.
So I know what you're feeling and you don't have to tell me. I know what you're thinking. You don't have to tell me, because I've had that same expression on my face.
Right.
I wanted to become, once God said do this and I answered that call, I wanted to be the type of counselor that I never had.
Okay.
I wanted to give to people what was not given to me.
Okay.
And so this is where my passion lies, is in education, letting people know that they're not by themselves and they don't have to fight this journey or this battle by themselves. I will walk every step with you. I didn't have anyone to walk it with me. I will walk it with you.
And let's talk about, before we go to the break, your credentials, because you have a lot of them. So I could actually choose, a lot of titles to give you at the bottom. So let's just talk through your educational experience so that people can really understand from that perspective who you are.
Oh, okay. Let's see, where do I start? In order for me to do that, let me kind of back up just for a second.
Okay.
I only went to the 9th grade, never graduated high school. I got my GED when I was 17, and I started to college when I was around 23, 24 years old. But once I started, I didn't stop. When I realized what I could accomplish, it gave me the drive to want to accomplish.
You made up for lost time.
I made up for lost time. But I have a doctoral degree. It's a doctoral of education and counseling psychology. I have a LPC, which is a licensed professional counselor in the state of Georgia.
There were a lot of letters that I didn't quite keep going.
A CTSS, after my name, is a certified trauma service specialist. The CFTP is a certified family trauma professional. The CPCS is a certified professional counseling supervisor. So I actually supervise other counselors who are in the process of getting their license.
Okay.
And right now I'm working on a couple of other letters to go after my name, because I don't just work with civilians, I work with law enforcement and military too. So I've been military and law enforcement trained, and I have trained, as to this day, over 543 officers in understanding post-traumatic stress and self-care and understanding mental illness and others.
Fantastic. Well, we have to take a break. Digest all of that she just said. She is the person. And we'll talk about how, as you said, Georgia Mountains Health. People can come and see you. They can receive counseling there from Georgia Mountains Health from you. We'll tell folks how they can reach out to you maybe when we come back after the break. And then also, Sallie, if you'll share your story, if you want to share your story, in addition to the documentary that we saw that brought you and Elaine together, you have another story to share. So
Yes, I do.
all right. And we want to continue Talk of the Town when we come back right after this break, so stay with us. Welcome back, everyone, to Talk of the Town on ETC3 TV. I'm kristy Lindstrom. This has been a wonderful time today on this show, talking to Elaine and Sallie about their stories, and also learning. Now we're going to really shift and talk about what is trauma and what is PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. What is it, how it impacts people's lives, and what they're doing to help use their stories to enhance and help and change the lives of other people. Welcome to you both, and thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
So we were discussing your credentials and all of the things that bring you to the table that make you this expert in this field. And sometimes our expertise can come through difficult situations. And Sallie, I want to shift and talk to you that you have dealt with trauma in your own life, that you are now, you're sharing your story with other people like you did with me and others in that room
Right.
that night.
I am a trauma survivor because my son at 18 years of age killed himself. And I was at home in the hallway when he actually shot himself with a shotgun in the head. And I researched, I did therapy, I felt like I had lost my life. I'm a happy person, and from people that have seen me on the documentary and know me, I'm a little free spirit, and I don't want
She's fun. You're a funny person.
and I didn't want to feel that way, but I would feel like every time I thought about him, like a Mack truck was just running right into my chest. And so I did therapy. Then I was told about EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And I researched that. I heard about that from my PA. His daughter had a sexual abuse trauma going on. And when my son killed himself, he told me, he said, I was so worried I was going to lose my daughter, but this saved my daughter. The EMDR did. So that was what would put me on my quest, and I finally found it, and I did that, and I really believe that gave me my life back. And I do know that I also did play therapy at the end of it, and I was able to do this for suicide at the Link Counseling Center in Sandy Springs, because they are the national headquarters for suicide prevention and aftercare. And it was just quite a traumatic, I mean, I don't think any mother should have to see this, but what I saw or experienced. But when you do see that and you're exposed to it, I'm so grateful that there's people like Elaine that are trained, and people like at the Link that are trained in what to do with somebody that's experienced that. But since then, my journey, even when I was back in Atlanta, was if I heard about a child committing suicide, is to try to reach out and communicate with the parent and let them know, because I was one of these that I believe the only way out is through. And of course, the doctor's first response is to give you sleeping pills and Xanax.
And that's something that has stuck with me, that you said that the only way to move through it is through it.
Yes, you've got, I believe, it's painful, it hurts, you should cry, I shouldn't be given Xanax or told that I'm depressed because, all these years later, there may be a tender moment or something that makes me feel like I need to shed those tears. Tears are normal. Tears are, and I know so many people are afraid that if they start with the tears or they start with the anger, and really kind of what's funny to me is when I get angry, I cry. So, but that it's not gonna stop. But I'm supposed to feel what I'm feeling, and the love of people around me and my church and the counselors and all that, they kind of loved me through it till I can do it. And even my pastor at my church, when all of this was going on, he used to say, you just kept knocking on doors. You knew, and even in your worst moments, you knew you needed help. And I think that was probably that little fighter, strong person that you talked to me about a little bit. I didn't want to feel the way I felt. I wanted to get better. And thankfully, through trauma therapy and EMDR and all of that, I was given my life back. And that's why, to me, reaching out to other people, when I hear about a suicide, if it's some way I can get contact with them, I want to help other people to heal, not through the drugs, because the only way out is through. I'm supposed to grieve. I'm supposed to feel pain. I'm supposed to be angry. I'm not supposed to stuff it all.
Right. Elaine, what is technically PTSD, and can only a professional diagnose someone with that, or are we walking around with this? What is it?
Okay, I've got a twofold answer to that. Post-traumatic stress, and we're trying to learn to take the D off of it instead of it being a disorder.
Okay.
It should be post-traumatic stress because it's after a traumatic, stressful event. And people with post-traumatic stress should not be perceived as having a disorder. But post-traumatic stress is in the eye of the beholder. Two people can go through the same event, one person be traumatized and the other not. And there's all kinds of variables around that, the reason why. But if a person perceives that event as traumatic, then they have an emotional reaction. It's not the trauma that we go through that causes the problem. It's the emotional attachment to that trauma. And what the EMDR does, and there's another therapy that I use, it's called accelerated resolution therapy, is it detaches the emotion away from the event. So you can still remember the event, because you notice that when Sally's talking about it, she doesn't have an emotional reaction to it. She's able to tell you what happened.
Right.
And I can be very factual. I try to be careful not to be too factual sometimes.
So what she did, she was able to process and work through the emotions that was attached to this very intense traumatic event for her. And so what we do is we attach to that. And it's often post-traumatic stress. Most people are diagnosed with bipolar. So bipolar is overdiagnosed. And you can have some of the same symptoms with bipolar that you have with post-traumatic stress. Mood swings, intense anger, forgetfulness, risk-taking behaviors. There's all kinds of things that are involved that if you look, they parallel together. But someone that has a true chemical imbalance in their brain is truly a mental illness. It is medication will work for to regulate that chemical imbalance. With post-traumatic stress, most people know that when they're taking medication, most of the time it doesn't work. Well, that's because there's nothing off in the brain. It means that there's circumstances that's happened beyond their control, outside of their person. That doesn't have anything to do with the chemicals in your brain. You had an emotional reaction to that event. It connected to one another. So we're always in a constant, this is how I educate my clients. Our racetrack is that big question, why? The gasoline is the anger to try to answer that question.
Wow.
So if you're in this constant state of trying to answer, why this, why me, why them, whatever it may be, and the only thing you're doing is becoming angry, and it could happen 15, 25 years ago, or it could have happened yesterday.
Right.
In this relentless pursuit to answer why these things had to happen to us, we get angry because we're trying to make sense out of something that's senseless, trying to make logic out of something that's illogical. And that's what all of my trainings are based on, is giving you all of that detail and helping you to understand that. And when I started with trainings, I started with mental health professionals. And I thought, I'm not getting as good of a response as I thought that I might be. Why don't I just open this up to the public? So the little summit that I started actually had 5 therapists, and it also had civilians, lay people in there. So they got to hear from the therapists, and the therapists got to hear from them, and there was a lot of dialogue that went on. And so now I'm taking it to professionals and to lay people. And right now, I haven't had any response from professionals, but I wasn't brought back here to do that. I was brought back here to bring it to the community, to educate, because there's really no resources. There's really no place for people to go to understand. And as I said before, you know, being in these Appalachian mountains, people have the wrong idea of who we are. well, they're undereducated or they're ignorant. They don't understand what's going on. So we're going to leave them in the mountains and we're not going to necessarily cater to their services. Well, we still need help.
Right.
We still need that guidance. We're still human beings. No matter our education level, no matter if we were brought up in these mountains, we're still human beings. Things still has happened to us. So God blessed me with the education that I've got, and now I've got to bring it back home and use it.
And I loved being in that room to hear your stories, because at the training that I went to was in Blairsville, and it really does bring everyone together, that all the stories that were told were very different, but everybody has a story to tell.
Absolutely.
And we do have to go take a break, and I think we have one more segment because we started after the top of the hour. But when we come back, I want to just let everybody know how they can get involved. If they want to be one of these facilitators in the community, how they can do that, and where maybe the next training is going to be, all the particulars that they need, and also how they can find you at Georgia Mountains Health.
Okay.
So stay with us. We'll be right back on Talk of the Town. Welcome back, everyone, to Talk of the Town on ETC3 TV. I'm here with my special guest today, Elaine Dilbeck and Sallie Sompayrac, and they are talking about trauma and PTS, post-traumatic stress, and how it can manifest itself in oneself, and also what you're doing to educate the community. Let's continue our conversation now about what you are doing specifically in the community, and if there's someone out there who needs you, or if there's someone out there who wants to be this pure facilitator, how do they get involved? So tell me what's happening.
We started last Monday. The wonderful pastor that attended the meeting that you came to opened up his church. And so
Pastor Asa Dockery,
yes,
right?
Pastor Dockery, World Harvest.
Yes.
He opened up his church, and we're using his fellowship hall. We started our first group training of facilitators. We actually had 13 people sign up, 9 showed up. A couple couldn't come because of sickness, but that's the largest turnout that we have had, and actually beginning the training process. And so what I'm doing is taking them through, I created a curriculum. I had a client that helped me to create a curriculum, and I am taking them actually through that curriculum to work on their own issues and to understand how the curriculum's going to work, and training them at the same time. And so they will be able to start their own small groups, support groups. I'm not making counselors out of them. What I'm doing is, it's like a recovering alcoholic running an AA meeting. So these recovering trauma survivors are going to be trained and understand how that they can start their own support groups. Because not everybody, I'm not meant to reach everybody. And there'll be people that Sallie can reach that I can't, or another person that I can't. And that's the whole point of this, is to be able to do that. So we're going to run for about 6 weeks. And once I teach them the curriculum, then we're going to take a little break. And then if we get other facilitators to sign up, then I will run another training.
Do you need other community partners or businesses or nonprofits, or are there any particular people or audiences that you want to be part of this group?
I'd love to have anybody and everybody.
Okay. So from church, from business,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
everybody, there's no respecter of persons that you may be dealing with someone who's
Right.
had a traumatic situation.
Well, and what we also need is, once you've got a group of us trained, we need people that would be willing to contact us and say, oh, okay, I've got these people that I think might be good for your little support group. And the wonderful thing for me is I spent probably 18 years or more in the Al-Anon program, which is a 12-step program for people that have been affected by other people's drinking. Okay. And since part of this is kind of done on the 12 steps too, it's a wonderful tool for me to have because I've taken part in it for so long, to do it and base it on the trauma, because a lot of people that have been in an alcoholic relationship have also suffered traumas.
Okay. And so if someone wants to become part of this, should they call a phone number or find you on Facebook, as you mentioned? Or
Just reach out on Facebook to begin with. And like Sallie said, the biggest thing that we need once I get this group trained, you know, whether it's you or whether you know someone, reach out and to Sallie and I and the lady that helped us to get all this started. Absolutely wonderful human being. Her name is Joan Moore. You can reach out to her on Facebook, and you know, recommend people to come to these little groups, because once I get them trained, they will figure out their days and times, and we will start posting those on Facebook when they're going to hold their groups and where they're going to be held at. This and one of the vows that we've took, as I mentioned before, if somebody reaches out to one of us, we always keep information confidential. So that's one of the things that we emphasize in these groups. So if you decide that you need this support group, do not worry about your information being shared. This is not for gossip, this is for healing. Okay, so the group facilitator, when they're holding their group, will ensure and attempt to ensure that confidentiality is always held in that group. I have had people reach out to me that do not want to come through through Georgia Mountain or through regular services. They want to maintain more confidentiality, so they can reach out to me and private message me on Facebook. I am working right now to find a small place to where I can take those few people that doesn't want to take that avenue. But reach out to Georgia Mountain and make an appointment with me to come through there if you feel comfortable. Private message me if you want to do it in another way, or if you just want to reach out and if you want to be a group facilitator once we finish, then I can get enough people together to start another training.
And if you, I guess, could go back in your life and look at where you are right now, you probably wouldn't have imagined the impact that you're literally having.
God has a sense of humor.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. He absolutely. He does have a really, I say a warped, but really strange sense of humor in the way that he does things. No, I did not expect to be. I was always, to use metaphors, always the photographer, not the model, or the backup singer, not the lead singer. I am completely out of my comfort zone. I'm not, but once I started training and started with these trainings, and I've been doing them for a long time now, I started feeling, you know, okay, I know what I'm doing. I know I'm comfortable with
all
this.
The pieces have been put into place
right.
in steps.
And I didn't think I'd ever come back here and ever live again. I didn't think I would do that. But when God says, go, I don't argue. I came. But I realize now how much that He is using me in this, and what an impact that it is making. I'm where I'm supposed to be. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
And we have about just 2 minutes left in the program, but unlikely friends, unlikely family.
Family, yeah.
Sometimes family isn't blood, right?
Well, and I would say after having been involved with the adoptees too since '97, you do feel like your family,
right,
with a lot of them, and with Elaine, and starting new families. You know, when we're in this training group for 6 weeks, we're going to be awfully close too.
Mm-hmm. I just really appreciate your time today. I know that the story has impacted through television. It started with that documentary and all the years prior to that, but you've done such wonderful work just sharing the story, because people have stories to tell, but they may not take that step to tell the story. So I know that you've probably spent a lot of your time on the road. You've done television, you've done radio, you've pretty much, if there's somebody out there looking for women like you to talk about trauma impact or post-traumatic stress or even the documentary, you're available.
We're here.
Absolutely.
Right.
If you want us to come to your church and speak, because I feel like churches need to get more involved and be more educated and aware, because our faith is important to us. You can tell it's important to Sallie and I. And for those that it is important to them, the churches need to be more educated and understand how to spiritually support somebody. You know, it's great to pray for somebody, but sometimes people are angry at God, and they need to be angry at God, and so the church doesn't need to be offended that somebody comes in and says, I'm angry, you know, I can't believe God did this. You got to meet that person where they are. So if you need us to come and speak at your church or at your organization, whatever you need us to do, Sallie and I are in
We're
this.
willing, yeah.
We're in this, and we're willing to do it.
And if you need to reach them, you can do that via, as we've talked about, via their Facebook pages. You can reach them through my Facebook page. Just send me a message and say you want a number, and I could shoot it back out to you really quickly. Don't need any information beyond that, but we're connected to, I'm connected to a lot via Facebook that you may not be connected to.
Correct.
So I'm happy to help in that way. Or, as you mentioned, Georgia Mountains Health. Just so many ways to reach you, and I hope that this program, it will air a lot. And my YouTube channel, kristy Lindstrom Communications, people can find it that way. So the message will be shared. There will be a lot of progress, and hopefully the community can heal from this, and you can lead the way.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for watching Talk of the Town on ETC3 TV. It's been a wonderful a little more than an hour now. Thanks for staying with us, and I'll be back with you next Thursday for another topic here on today's show. So stay with us.